When faced with an obstacle, the default human instinct is to push harder. We meet resistance with friction, relying on physical exertion and emotional intensity to force a way through. Relying on raw effort burns through resources quickly. It treats competition like a lottery, where whoever happens to have the most stamina or luck at that exact moment survives. But a framework recorded roughly 2.5 millennia ago approaches conflict entirely differently. It discards the clash of wills and treats human competition as an objective, manageable sequence of inputs and outputs. Compiled by a military strategist known as Sun Tzu, the text argues that relying on courage on the battlefield is a systemic liability. True strategy requires isolating variables and manipulating them before the engagement even begins. Success, therefore, is not the result of overpowering an opponent. It is the result of engineering a reality where the outcome is mathematically decided long before anyone takes the field. This map of the text's core principles outlines its highest objective. At the top center, supreme excellence is defined clearly. It is the act of dismantling an opponent's strategy, alliances, and plans, securing victory without a single physical strike. An amateur fixates on the moment of the clash, optimizing for the present. A master focuses entirely on the past, the long, quiet chain of prerequisites and positioning that makes the clash unnecessary. The text describes a process of pre-battle assessment. A general evaluates factors like terrain, weather, and doctrine in the temple, measuring the weights of each advantage before deploying troops. By quantifying every environmental factor and refusing to move until the conditions heavily favor one side, the element of chance is systematically removed from the equation. We can visualize this algorithm as a 6-step closed-loop system called the strategic flow. It begins with gathering intelligence. This step requires a completely objective assessment of the environment and of yourself. Ego and assumptions are discarded in favor of hard, verifiable data about resources and limitations. That data feeds into the second step, calculation. Here, variables like morale, distances, and supply lines are weighed to locate systemic vulnerabilities in the opposing side. Once those vulnerabilities are mapped, you move to securing a position. The primary directive is to place your own forces beyond the possibility of defeat before ever looking for an opening in the opponent. If the conditions do not guarantee absolute leverage, you simply do not move. There is a strict discipline in withholding action until the environment works for you. By stacking these physical advantages, you systematically strip the opposing side of their options. What starts as an unpredictable contest narrows into a foregone conclusion. Once the physical elements are locked in place, the system turns to the cognitive battlefield. The goal shifts to manipulating the opponent's perception of reality. In the deception phase, you feed the opponent false signals. By appearing weak when you are actually strong, or inactive when you are moving, you invite them into a catastrophic miscalculation. Only then do you reach execution. Because of the exhaustive preparation, this is not a grinding struggle. It is the swift release of built-up pressure against an exposed target. It functions like a heavy mechanical sequence. The hard work is done in the assembly and alignment. The final action is as minimal as dropping a single sphere to trigger the sequence. The cycle then immediately moves to adaptation. The results of the execution change the environment, so new data is instantly fed back into step 1, and the continuous loop begins again. This entire loop serves a single underlying thesis. As the text dictates, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas the one destined to defeat fights first and then looks for a way to win. The cycle acts as a filter against the chaos of conflict. By continuously compounding small, systematic advantages, the risk of failure is driven down to zero. The technology of warfare has evolved over 2 millennia, but the mechanics of navigating friction remain exactly the same. The icons at the bottom of this diagram chart how these ancient principles map directly onto modern domains. The exact rules of positioning and perception dictate outcomes in corporate business, high-stakes negotiation, and personal leadership. In a commercial market, finding yourself in a fair, head-to-head fight for market share means your positioning has failed. A properly structured business scales by finding an angle where competitors cannot effectively engage. On an individual level, achieving a difficult goal is rarely the result of a sudden burst of willpower. It is the predictable output of a well-designed daily routine that isolates distractions and sets up favorable conditions. There is a sharp division between those who wait for a problem to appear and react to it with brute force, and those who anticipate the terrain and shape the environment to their advantage. Human nature is the constant variable. The individuals who understand how to calculate the inputs and control the system are the ones who create their victories long before the struggle begins.